so many hilarious people are part of that show. And my son, who has, I think, excellent comedy taste in that he doesn't like what I'm doing, but really loves great shows, I've walked into the room and he's watching The Office and he's mouthing along. He knows it. He has memorized The Office. Yeah. And that's kind of his comedy Bible, that and The Simpsons. And I think that's great taste, because what a spectacular show.
There is a music to it, or there must be, that people learn it by watching it again and again, the way you listen to a song, I guess. And it has no laugh track and no music to it. So the dialogue, I think, becomes sort of the rhythm of it. But I learned all my comedy lessons from Greg Daniels, being in that room. And the care he has these sayings that maybe you have too, or I know you guys came up together, maybe you developed them together, but one phrase was, you don't eat your seed corn. Maybe he said that from The Simpsons. Like, you can make a joke in which it's like a farming term, that you don't sell out a character for a great joke in the moment, because you're going to need that character later. The attention to the people, to the realism. He also, in terms of it being evergreen, one time someone mentioned a year, and he said, and the show was not popular at this point, and he said, let's try to never mention the year, so that it doesn't jar people if they're ever watching it in syndication, or we didn't even know about Netflix then, you know. So I learned everything from him.
Yeah, I think there's proof that there's that old saying, God is in the details, that and there's a philosophy that I first saw it with SCTV. When I was a young lad, my brothers and I would watch SCTV, and that's where I saw, John Candy and Catherine O'Hara and Martin Short and Eugene Levy, all these people. And they put so much thought into the comedy, and they would put little Easter eggs in there. And if you were paying attention, you were rewarded for paying attention. And I think doing that does not guarantee that your show will be successful.
Well, it's all the braver to do that, because you feel so embarrassed if your show doesn't succeed. Right. And you put so much into these details. Yeah. And everyone's always telling you focus on the big picture. And if you love what you do, you love focusing on those little things.
Also, I think if a show makes it or doesn't make it is so random. Great, brilliant shows have been canceled all the time. And if they survive, it's almost just sometimes an evolutionary fluke. And so I think it's good to put all that work, but I think there's into it. But there are people out there that think that all great shows make it, and they don't. Well, so many of them get strangled in the crib.
Can I actually push back somewhat on that? Because part of the reason I wanted to work in television when I was like a teenager was I realized the most popular shows right now in the 90s, the most popular shows are The Simpsons and Seinfeld. And these are the smartest shows I have ever seen. Right. And they're number one in America. And it wasn't true for movies. It wasn't true for music.
Right, that's true.
The obvious best things were more niche in other fields. They survived, but they were niche. And I thought, that's where I want to work, where you can actually make the best thing, and it might be the most popular thing. So I see that a lot.
I think it did change. I do think, because
it changed after that.
I came up in the 70s and 80s,
but I watched Three's Company the other day, and there's quality in even, you're glaring at me. There's quality. Maybe I watched a really good one, but
I wasn't glaring at you. This is me aroused.
But there are things.
I'm very titillated by this.
When you had to have a hard joke and hit your marks comedically. Yeah. It kept people very honest. And on The Office, there had been, now I brought it back to me again, there had been so few or almost no, or maybe no successful single cam shows without a laugh track. Right. And we were terrified that we would become, and we watched, single cam shows that we didn't think were great, and analyzed, like, we're not laughing out loud. We need to be as hard joke as you are with a laugh track, or like you had with a live audience. Right. And those shows that had a live audience, they had to get the laugh. Now, they also faked the laugh. There was a lot of junk, but there's more to that stuff than I used to think, because I hadn't seen that stuff.
I think, I think you are right that shows, I guess I grew up, when I grew up, I saw a lot of brilliant shows that I really loved would never last that long.
Like what?
And, I loved The Night Stalker with Darren McGavin. I thought it wasn't a comedy show, but it had comedic elements to it, but it was just a brilliant show, and I think it lasted a season. Marty Feldman had a summer replacement show that I loved that was just around for the summer. There were things that would come along that were great, and then, The Love Boat and Chips.
Right, okay.
And I've gotten into this. Bill Burr loves Chips, and we've had it out because I maintain that Chips is a war crime, and and he absolutely adores it. And we've gotten into it, and I think I proved him wrong. Bill, if you're out there, you know you're wrong. But
He's out there.
They were solving jewel heists on the highway while on motorcycles. But that's not the point. There was just way too much disco music. That's another thing that bothered me.
Stop before you go on for a very long
time. Okay. Anyway, there were a lot of bad shows that were the number one show when I was growing up.
And
but you're
Mr.
right,
Show meant in sketch comedy. Mr. Show changed my life, and that was a small show. Nathan For You is my favorite show the past few years. Now that has been building a cult audience, as Mr. Show has too.
Yes, those shows. I think we live in an era now where if you put the work in and the quality's there, people will find it. It used to be a show, when it was gone, it was gone. There was not even, in for a long time, you couldn't even get a cassette of it or a DVD. Now
we have cassettes of it.
Now we have cassettes and DVDs. And that's proof that I know what's happening today. Proof.
You're so with it.
Thank you. I got to get out of here. I got to do some blow.
What?
And some lewds, don't forget.
And some lewds. No, I know what I see what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but I do think that, Nathan For You is absolute perfection. And I do think that that's something that eventually everyone's going to find.
Yeah.
It's got to knock around for a while, but it will.
Sometimes you got to knock around for a while. But I do think that TV, more than other art forms, TV comedy more than other art forms, does reward quality. Not universally, you can't count on it, and you're not always given the chance to find it. The Office was almost canceled a lot. I know from stalking and circling you that your show was on the brink. Late night forever.
We were always just about to be canceled, or I think there was actually a meeting where we were canceled, and then they, at the end of the meeting, were like, okay, we can't cancel him just yet for tax reasons, but we'll get to it in the next meeting. Let's make sure we cancel him.
I love when your bosses are lazy sometimes. You know what I mean? Like they take the weekend off too. They can be like, oh, let's just leave it alone.
Well, that was one of the things that helped us was, I think it's much tougher for you guys because you're in prime time, but when you're in late night, especially in those early years, 93, 94, 95, we're on every night at 12:30 at night. A lot of people that are making the decisions, they're all in Los Angeles. We were in New York. They're not watching it. And so there's this general sense that that kid, I hate that kid. Let's get rid of him. Stupid hair, stupid name. Let's get rid of him. All right, we'll get rid of him. Wait a minute. There's trouble with Suddenly Susan. We got to talk about that. Okay. And then I would, it helped to be way over in the corner knocking around at 12:30. That was quite helpful, I think, to our survival.
Yeah.